Oh, you missed. No, you gotta wait for the, so yeah, jump on it now and then hold X on it. And I double jump into it. Yeah, double jump. Hold X. Yeah, now jump off. Like, press X off it.
Let me.
Yeah, X. 3. There you go. Jump, sink it, jump. Oh, jump. Oh, why did you jump off? Jump, double jump, dash. Double jump, dash. No, like, yeah, jump. So wait for it to stop. Yeah, now double jump, dash. So when it stops, jump, dash. So you just hold. Oh shit.
Alright.
Hold 8. No, you hold. Remember, hold it. Hold. Don't let go. You have to press it to make the middle one go. Yeah. You know what I mean? Now again. So you're gonna have to. Oh, wait! Go again.
That's you're rubbish.
Yeah, just help them down a bit. You gotta double jump over them.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer. Every night, I can feel my leg, and my arm, even my fingers. The body I've lost. The comrades I've lost won't stop hurting.
How did we ever finish this game?
Great teamwork! Your relationship is now more in sync!
With one floppy R2 trigger on a DualSense controller, because just like marriage, nothing lasts anymore. But luckily my bond with my partner withstood the pressures, and I am so glad it did, because It Takes Two is my favourite game of 2021 so far, and it is one of the most creative and original games I have played in recent memory. Developed by Hazelight Studios, the team behind Jailbreaker A Way Out, which I am also told is an excellent example of cooperative play, It Takes Two could easily be mistaken for a Pixar movie on the surface, with its gorgeous art style and witty and powerful writing, but outside of the Toy Story-esque aesthetic lays a multi-layered, complexly creative gameplay experience that will constantly surprise and charm you all the way to its conclusion with no time or resources wasted. Whilst it is not perfect and does have its flaws, It Takes Two I can confidently say is the most fun I have had in a co-op experience, and the wackiest time I have had in a video game in quite some time. My experience with the game, however, was not my conventional go-to, as I decided to team up with my girlfriend instead of relying on one of my mates. That's right, somebody wants to be lovers with me. And nope, my girlfriend is not a gamer, nor does she ever really pretend to show any interest in most games that I play, but as I tend to please her in the bedroom every full moon, I decided it was about time the tables were turned and she pleased me in the bedroom, so I whipped out my spare DualSense controller, and she got down dirty with it.
Oh, shut up and just throw us the rope.
Welcome to the NextGen broadcast. My name is Naj and this is my review of It Takes Two. Not to be mistaken with the 1995 cult classic movie starring the Olsen twins, It Takes Two is a co-op action-adventure puzzle platformer. Set in a country family home, you and your chosen second player will take on the roles of May and Cody, or mum and dad as they are going through a tough time in their relationship as they prepare to go through a divorce. Wrapped up in the drama is their daughter Rose, who puts on the classic I'm fine facade, but really is distraught by the goings on at home. Therefore, as many fairy tale stories start out, she makes a wish in which her parents can be friends again, working out their differences and to become yet again a big happy family. Like most wishes, however, it comes with consequences.
Make your wishes.
The parents are transformed into little dolls and it's down to the player to get them through the ordeal and back to their regular selves. Thus begins our adventure. Honey, I shrunk the parents. Right off the bat, within the first 10 minutes of the game, you can 100% tell where this story is going. But as I'm sure a wise man once said sometime somewhere, it is not the destination but the journey where the best moments and memories are created. The first thing to catch your eye will of course be the graphics themselves. Nostalgic in their design of movies I grew up watching from Disney and Pixar, they really invite the player in immediately. The textures and colour palettes used really could pass off as a movie animation at times, accompanied by fantastic lighting effects with beams of light giving way to particles of dust as you explore the inside of a shed, or the sun beaming through a window in the bedroom, which really gives the place a feeling of warmth and a sense of homeliness. As the levels progress, you could say the levels become more peculiar, with my personal favourite being inside a record player, covered with old cassette tapes, CDs and disco lighting. Every area felt different enough and they rarely became stale, with minor exceptions in which one or two did feel like they were perhaps getting to the point of outstaying their welcome, but it never really got to that point I was wishing it would hurry up. In fact, I was relishing in it. The bedroom scene in particular, with the textures of roads built from wooden train tracks and all the toys scattered around. It was all reminiscent of childhood within itself, and it really created a world of variety, and the locations, whether up close or the backdrop of the setting, were all particularly impressive. What's perhaps even more impressive is the amount of different locations you'll be exploring. The game for its entirety is set in the family home, going through the different rooms and areas, but each area really feels unique and different, and a big part of that is down to the actual gameplay shifts within each environment, which I'll get to more in a bit. But the only thing that I will say I did find a bit strange in the locations were the sizes and the amount of real estate covered within them. Looking at them realistically, 1 minute Cody and May, who are around the size of a decently proportioned mango, are exploring the garden hunting bugs. But then the next they are inside a snow globe which is not much bigger than said mango. I suppose you could put this down to magic and some mumbo jumbo, but it sometimes seems a bit inconsistent and didn't really explain it all that well. But that being said, this is a game about talking dolls in which one can turn into a giant cactus with machine gun hands, which I cannot praise enough, so what the hell do I know about the fundamental laws of magic and mango-sized couples going through a domestic, because in this game it appears anything can happen. Gameplay is king, and it reigns supreme.
I reign supreme! I!
Phenomenal in its range of gameplay mechanics, it is primarily the gameplay that preserves the game's freshness and prevents it from ever becoming stale. Granted, I do have to say each individual element that makes up the game isn't actually that unique. In fact, it clearly takes inspiration from other titles and genres. You've got your third-person shooter, hack and slash, beat 'em up, driving sections, literal on-the-rails sections. One might say the developers at Hazelight were having a severe bipolar episode whilst making this game, and they simply could not decide on one particular genre, so they chucked them all into a stew. I've seen this attempted in many other games, and too many ideas can be a game's downfall. It Takes Two, however, does not follow this path. Several sections may feel like they've been ripped straight out of other games, but it executes them so well and in such a charming and enjoyable way, it somehow makes the entire experience feel original, even if it really isn't. Clearly, Hazelight are paying homage to the inspirations, not just putting everything in there for the sake of it. The game has its own special way of shaking up its pick and mix bag of genres and gameplay styles, and when it is emptied out you will find all the individual sweeties merged into one big, even juicier piece of candy, and oh boy, I could suck on this candy till there's nothing left because it is just too tasty.
Oh, God, that is disgusting.
Hey, hold it, big boy. My back is killing me today. Hey, you take the fat one.
One character I haven't mentioned yet is Dr. Hakim, a book of love who guides you, or in some cases throws you straight in the deep end, through your quest of rekindling the flame that was once lit so bright. He is essentially a love guru and is kind of a genie character, but it's kind of annoying. Whilst there are humorous moments, a lot of his screen presence was actually a little irritating, but I guess that's the whole point, as the main characters also feel the same way. Each level he sets you up in, each player will be given an ability or weapon, from one player having a hammer and the other the nails, to one having a machine gun filled with flammable sap and the other having explosive bullets. The tools at your disposal, whilst your own, need to be used in conjunction with the other player's tool to get the required results. One thing I love about this game is that it's always giving each player something interesting to do or play with. Some co-op games I've played and given one player the best weapon, or there may be a moment in which one player is kind of just standing around useless like a politician, but It Takes Two gives enough to each player that there never really is any time to stand around whilst the other player completes an objective. And I never felt jealous of a task or an item the other player had because mine was just as fun. The tools themselves are related to the levels, so everything fits within the world you are exploring, so nothing ever really feels out of place. Throughout the levels you will encounter many bosses. I'm a sucker for a cinematic boss fight and are somewhat of a selling point for me in some games. Some of my favourite gaming memories are due to boss battles, and this game has no shortage of them. Some are pretty generic and nothing to get too excited about, but there are more than enough standout ones to make the bosses you'll be going up against one of the game's many highlights. An early boss fight with a toolbox was one particular standout for me, and we both really had to pay attention to what was going on, which can be both frustrating and exhilarating when one of the players doesn't have a clue how to play video games. The boss level designs and how they really require the two players to work together can seem really ingenious and can provide some pretty intense sequences, especially when you have to rely on each other to overcome the challenges. Whilst there are of course no Dark Souls bosses in terms of difficulty, they are very enjoyable and charming. I mean, I never thought in my lifetime I would have to battle a vacuum cleaner with deep anger issues because I never emptied it. But here we are, and it was just as enjoyable as one might think, a vacuum cleaner trying to consume you through its nozzle. One thing I did notice, or rather noticed the lack of, was collectibles, and this is in no way a complaint. As someone with video game OCD of making sure an entire map is unfogged or the collectible counter is at 100%, I found the lack of collectibles a pleasantry. There are hidden Easter eggs throughout the game you can hunt to find, but these are in no way tracked. If you stumble across them, then you stumble across them. The closest thing to a tracked collectible is a series of mini-games hidden throughout the levels, which put you and the other player against each other in a competitive game of sorts like whack-a-mole or electro-tennis. These are pretty easy to find and don't really require you to go out of your way too much to locate them. There are also some items in the game world, such as mini rockets or gas canisters that you could destroy in levels, but I'm not even 100% sure these were collectibles as I was never rewarded for getting them, but then again I may have missed some. I feel it just really helped with the pacing of the game. Rather than checking constant menus to check collectible or side content progress, I was able to just get through the levels at my own pace, rarely slowing down the action. In a world in which so many games have additional content pumped into them just to plump out the journey unnecessarily, it made a nice change from progress coming to a standstill due to one collectible you end up looking for ages being more elusive than Amelia Earhart. The platforming sections and puzzle solving, although not as mind-bendingly smart as say Portal 2, is very well done. Each level's themes play into these sections and they do make both players discuss potential solutions and strategies, which is a huge part of this game's appeal and is what you'll be doing most of the time. The narrative and characters within it were all well written and voice acted. They all have great personality injected into them. The tone of the story can be a little shifty. The overall feeling is pretty light-hearted, with moments that may pull on your heartstrings. However, there were some surprisingly dark undertones to some of the plots. There was one particular scene which would have had Neil Druckmann playing with one hand whilst reaching for the lotion. You have to see the scene for yourself, but I think it had the effect on my girlfriend that The Last of Us 2 was supposed to have on that game's players. Quite dark stuff, but somehow as my girlfriend was borderline in tears, it managed to put me in a fit of laughter, either because I saw what it was trying to achieve in its parody, or I am just a bit of a psychopath. Speaking of parodies, the game is full of pop culture references which will have nerds like myself constantly pointing at the screen screaming, "Wow, that's the Terminator 2 thumb," whilst everybody else in the room stares on with a look of confusion. It Takes Two for me has set the bar very high for any upcoming cooperative games and puzzle platformers in general, so I can easily recommend this game. But, and there is a but, it does come with an asterisk when I ask myself the question, who is this game actually intended for? An exclusively co-op centred game around a struggling family as the two players work to re-spark the romance and commitment of marriage, released during a pandemic in which many are in lockdown? Hazelight, and more than likely EA as the game's publisher, are geniuses for choosing now as the time to bring the couch co-op game back to the spotlight, when during the dark times we are in, the audience is there, ready to have go at it more than ever, and perhaps an audience we have not seen before. The pandemic relationship and romances. Yes, the gameplay is awesome. Yes, the genre clashes and references are cool, but the overall objective and the story of the game, I don't think I would have enjoyed it as much if I was playing with the lads and some beers. Look, I may be wrong about that, but when I look at the trophy and Steam achievement statistics and see only around 20% of players have actually finished the game, that could be down to up to 3 reasons. 1, the game hasn't been out for more than 3 weeks yet, so people are still trying to get through to the end, which is likely, but maybe other reasons are couples like myself have bought the game, and one of them not being a gamer have given up halfway through. Or a couple of friends have got the game and it didn't really appeal to them, say, a way outward. I'm going to say it, I think this game is made for couples, whether both of you are gamers or not.
This is abduction!
No, this is Dr. Hakim's couples therapy.
In a time where anxieties and stress can play a big part in relationships, perhaps this is something to take the edge off and have a good time together on the couch with. For those people, this is a solid recommendation. And to be honest, I do recommend it to anyone whose interest has piqued on this review regardless of the narrative and who you'll be playing it with. If what you have seen here has interested you in the game in any way, go out and get it. I'm not saying a couple of friends won't enjoy the game, and I definitely don't want to detract from this game's awesomeness. I just don't think the story and the characters would have been as relatable had I played it with someone else. But if you're not particularly fussed about that and you're all about the gameplay, then don't let me put you off, because this game really is fantastic. The game even comes with a friend pass, so if you're not currently living together or seeing each other due to the current events, only one of you has to buy the game or even go halvesies on it. But at the end of the day, this is all just my opinion and I would love to know yours. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you play with an inexperienced partner like I did and did you make it to the end? Or did you give up in a fit of rage and give him a slap and snap the disc? Hopefully not, because that would make you a bastard, but let me know in the comments below and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more reviews like this one. Thanks for tuning in to the NextGen broadcast. Until next time.